welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I can't remember who, but somebody asked about if I could do a creative space sewing space tour. And they said that because I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and I do all of my sewing here. And a lot of YouTube creators have dedicated rooms for their projects, but obviously I don't. So I've had to be really creative about how to maximize my space for my creative endeavors. I was going to clean a ton before this video, but honestly, I'm not that clean of a person, and part of crafts being in my living space is it gets a little messy. So I thought that would be okay to show, I guess. And then now that I have a GoPro, I can hopefully show you the footage without making you nauseous. But yeah, no, I thought it was actually really a great request because most people don't have a spare room to devote to their crafting. And so I want to share, how I have my space set up and just some clever different tricks I use to keep my craft stuff organized and generally in place. Like I said, I'm not going to pre-clean before this video, so you're going to see the full raw-ish mess of my space. I am actually in a cleaner cycle right now. I'm kind of going through a phase where I feel like cleaning all the time, but there's still quite a bit of clutter and stuff like that, which, like I said, that just happens when you have a crafting room. Before we start the tour, so I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that is about 600 square feet. So it's not that big, but it's not that small either. It was built in the 80s and it has a lot of storage as well as a lot of windows. So basically it is a window or it is a closet. I don't have very many blank wall spaces, and I really like my apartment. I've been here for 2 years. I plan on staying here until hopefully one day I buy my own place, which will be a 2-bedroom. But I love the lighting, I love the layout. I feel like I've really gotten a creative space that works well for me. And I feel like my creating space and my living space still feel separate enough to feel comfortable and happy creating in this. Eventually I do want a 2-bedroom when I buy, just because I would love to be able to close the door to my craft room and have my chaos a little bit better contained, which you'll see in this video where my chaos is not contained. So it'd be nice to have it all in a room. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the tour. Okay, like I said, I'm not cleaning this up. I am embracing the mess. So this here is my background that you guys see all the time. Usually I have the chair scooted a little closer to the coffee table here, which this is, I move all this furniture away for when I cut fabric. Outside, you can see I made a drying line out there to hang my fabric to dry. On the ground is pine needles for pine needle baskets that I'm drying after washing and all that jazz. To the good stuff. So over here, these binders that you see behind me contain patterns. So the way I organize my patterns is I have them organized by yardage and then by date within the yardage. So this here, I have 3.5 yards, 3 to 3.5 yards, and it's in the section until here where we hit 3.5 to 4 yards. Because I'm usually picking pieces by yardage, and so it's most helpful if I have that organized by that, because I get so many vintage fabrics. And then I do general ranges like the 40s, and then I look up basically every pattern I get and I mark their little year here in a color code, orange being 40s, pink to 50s, 60s, and so on. And I have these 3 binders that have that in there, and then I have 2 down here that have it. This binder here, this one has all of my projects that I'm planning on doing that I've already extracted from this binder. So basically, when I have a project, I get out my fabric, I look at the yardage, and then I choose the correct pattern book and I flip through until there's something that calls my name. So that is how I organize my pattern envelopes. That's the word I'm looking for. This is how I organize my pattern envelopes. And then I'll show you how I actually have my patterns organized. I stole this organization technique from, I believe, Pink Mimosa is the one who first introduced it to me. But yeah, so that just slides back. And that is how I do that. I got these. I can link these. These are some cuter binders I got on Etsy because I was looking to have something aesthetic. Another aesthetic thing I do throughout all of my decor, I have my lace wound around these industrial antique bobbins, so that way it's all out and I can see it and it works as decor and it's not all stored away in drawers where I just can't see it. So when I'm choosing a lace, I'll kind of gather all of these. There's more over here. These are a bunch of my vintage ribbons. These are my ribbons from Greece. That's kind of a mix. And these are ones that I picked up recently at a craft show. So that's kind of what's going on in here underneath the TV. And then I also have, this is a drawer where I keep like my big patterns that are not normal sized. And then I also have a like bigger scrap drawer here. That's kind of the organization in the background that you see behind me. Eventually, up here, I want to put in a shelf and start having most of my antique wooden spoons up here, so that way they're all in one spot and I don't have to gather them from so many places. So that's kind of the scoop on this side of the room. Like I said, I did not bother to pick up because I wanted to just kind of show you authentically how things work right now. Scraps that I'm drying. I'm testing washing silk, which I know you're not really supposed to do. This is a package I just opened, actually, of this sweater. Overall, it's kind of a big mess. That brings us to over here. Over here, kitchen is like here-ish. Over here, I have, oh, I guess I should show you the bigger thing. I have this cupboard. This is a drafting desk. Is that what it's called? Secretary desk with a little hutch in it. I keep my teacups in the hutch. This is my scary mail situation of mail I don't want to deal with. And then down here, this is Spooky's drawer, but then in here I have all my patterns. So the different colored envelopes you see here represent different brands. So like pink is McCall's, purple's Advance, and then they're each in number order. So that way when I pick a pattern from that book, I can come over here. I know exactly where that pattern is. These are all my miscellaneous like kind of patterns. And then Simplicity. Simplicity is all of these. And then these are some of my like, these aren't, I think, Big Four brands anymore. These are all gone. They're like New York or Vogue does still exist. New York or Hollywood, stuff like that. These are my Simplicities. Simplicities are the bulk of my patterns. And again, these are all in numerical order. So like 1620s here. I can also link the envelopes I buy. I don't know if you should really take pattern storage advice from me. But this works really well for me, like organizationally. I mean, I don't know if these are really acid free, which I know, Stephanie, you're probably dying, but it is what it is. It's right above Spooky's food. But yeah, that's the situation over here. Everything stays closed away, so it feels pretty good. And then another situation in here, I can try to kind of open it. But this holds a whole bunch of other fabric. Oh no, I'm gonna have to set you down for a second. This is a real cedar chest, so it's really heavy, which is why I can't really lift it with one arm, but I have a ton of fabric in here. This is where I keep my wools, silks, and plaids, as well as my vintage linens and my upcycling. The scary stack of boxes you see over there is for my shipping for like my Poshmark and stuff. And then here is where a majority of my craft shelf is. And there's me. Hello. Oh, I'm too awkward for this. There we go. Now we're working. But yeah, here, so this guy up here is my vintage fabrics. This is projects I would like to get to soon. These are projects I've already picked out patterns with. These are all my buttons in these containers, and these buttons are organized by, my single buttons are in here. This is 4 to 6 buttons, 1 to 2 buttons, 10 and up, 7 to 9, I believe, are where all of those are. Back here, I have more trim that I'm working on getting antique spools for. It's taking me a little bit to source those. And then I also have my seam binding. In here, I have all of my little like hook and eyes that I've collected. I have embroidery. I have my interfacing. This is where a bulk amount of my craft stuff does lie. I also have 2 sewing machines back here that are my backups. Kind of a lot going on here on these shelves. I've given pretty extensive tours of these shelves in the past. I can link those. They might be horribly boring though. I didn't know really how to make videos back then. Then down here, you can again see some shipping boxes, and I have my crochet stuff. I have a lot of my beading stuff here. The bottom shelf is basically for my like non-sewing crafts. And then here you can see my stack of purses and where I sometimes get ready. We have more stacks here. This is fabric that I need to, I think, donate. This though is trim here. This here is trim I need to organize. In here, oh, here's my printer. What's on top of it right now is pine needles I've processed. I am planning on getting like a milk crate shelf, putting it on the wall and keeping all my pine needles in that. But this is the printer. I do use this mainly for Poshmark. I don't really like to print my own patterns. I usually go to a printer for that. And then in here we have bias tapes. This is just an IKEA unit. If I can figure out which one it is, I'll link it. It's a really good size. This is a bunch of like my smaller yardages of laces. This one down here has, I don't know, miscellaneous nonsense. Like my darning mushrooms, my elastic, overall buckles, just kind of some random nonsense. These down here, both these drawers are zippers. And these are all grouped by how long the zippers are. So even though it's a small space, it's all fairly organized. Here is a bunch of fabric I need to just get up the motivation to put away. All of these are new fabrics, and then I have some for projects that I need to work on. And then this box here is stuff I need to donate to my local creative reuse. Back here, you can also see I have my ironing board right behind my couch. So basically I have a nice little like couch living area. You can also see where I put up my camera for my intros and outros. But I have a nice little living area here where I don't have to pay attention to my craft stuff because it's all behind me when I'm like watching the TV. This is also usually where I edit, where that blanket is. Yeah, that's kind of this, and this is kind of like the bulk creative space, so a lot of the creativity I hide back here. Again, I have even more boxes for my Poshmark shop. I have not had that up and running, so I've gotten a little intense on the boxes. Usually my sewing machine is right here. However, right now I am having it serviced because it's time. I sew a lot of hours on it, and I like to keep it in good shape. Sewing box is here. I haven't really filled this much yet because I'm still figuring out what I want to put in here. And I also need to refinish it. My main sewing box with all my tools is here, where I have like my needles, my scissors, my thread, and my marking tool. I thrifted this. This is one of my best thrift finds ever. I thrifted this for $5, and I'm quite proud of it. I'm very happy. These are all like my colorful thread. All of my neutral thread is in this box here. This is the thing I put my threads in that sits next to my sewing machine. And then this here, I've just been collecting all my thread ends in a jar because why not? I also have a side table. This is where I have all my floral and geometric prints. You can kind of see them, as well as my solids. Hopefully this is helpful in like you seeing how I was able to create just this very small creative space here that is in my living space, but hopefully still feels a little separate. I do really enjoy all the light in this window. I found this apartment really, really inspiring, and just the feeling of it, and I'm really, really happy with it. Because yeah, as you can see, this feels really different, especially when my camera's not up. This feels like a living space, and so it's not until like from here over, this looks like a normal living space, and it's not until you quickly go on over here that all of a sudden you realize this is quite an intense craft space. Update from, I guess, a week later, or not even, like 5 days later. I did get my ambitions done, and I now have this really nice shelf above my TV. As you can see, I moved some of my ribbons up here. Always some more teacups just right above my TV. And now I can get some more industrial rolls to put my ribbons out because I have space for it. So I'm pretty excited about this. But this is not the only project I completed. I also completed this one over here. I feel like it's hard to tell. Oh, there we go. It looks like it's lightening right. This is a crate with a bunch of different pine needles in it. You can see all the different colors I've dyed them. This is for just holding my pine needles in a place where it's just pine needles and they're not a huge pain. And then I can actually fit my hams up at the top so they're no longer sitting on top of the printer. So that's just some project updates that I got done, and I'm pretty excited about. And I liked this little crate solution enough that I actually got a second one to put above my toilet to hold my toilet paper. Exciting adult things, I guess. Alright, you have now seen the tour. I hope this is helpful for any of you who have more limited spaces for crafting. If you did find this helpful, let me know what you found helpful. I feel like at some point I'll probably put like a tips video together, and anything you guys find helpful I can then put into like a shorter, less windy video. And of course, one day when I hopefully do have a 2-bedroom, I will take you around that For now, like I said, I'm staying in my 1-bedroom. I locked this in. I moved during when rent was historically the lowest it's been in Seattle in several years. So my rate is relatively locked in at a lower rate. I do get my rent raised $100 every year, but I've never lived somewhere in Seattle where that isn't the case. So like I can deal, and it's still under the general market price for something like this. And once I start to try to raise the rent above market price, I'll start having discussions with them since I pay my rent on time and all that jazz. So yeah, this is my sewing space for now. And now if you watch my other videos, you'll have a good feel of the space. And as always, if you want to stick around and subscribe, I would love to have you. And then, of course, there are different ways to support me, whether it is my Ko-Fi or liking this video or commenting down below. Next time I will be sewing, so I will see you then. Bye!